Some actors have one film that defines their legacy, but Gene Hackman? He had many: The French Connection, Unforgiven, Superman, the list goes on. But you know what Hackman himself said was his favorite? The Conversation. Yep, not the one that won him an Oscar. Not the big blockbuster hits. But this quiet, slow burn thriller about a lonely surveillance guy losing his mind over a single recorded sentence. Why? Because The Conversation wasn't just a movie. It was a masterclass in paranoia, guilt, and one man's slow, painful descent into madness. And in a world where we're all being watched 24/7, this movie is more relevant than ever. With his recent passing, there's no better time to revisit why this movie meant so much to him, and why it remains a cinematic masterpiece nearly 50 years later. Welcome to Real Talk, where we spill the tea on movies, media, and all the madness in between, with wit, sass, and zero sugarcoating. Hackman plays Harry Call, a surveillance expert who prides himself on being the best at what he does: listening, recording, observing. Fun fact, Harry Call's name was a total accident. Originally, the character was called Harry Call, but due to a typo in the script, it became Call. Coppola decided to keep it because he was born with a caul, a rare birth membrane that some believe gives a person heightened intuition. A perfect metaphor for Harry, who listens in on the world but ultimately fails to understand what's right in front of him. When he overhears what sounds like a murder plot, he becomes obsessed, spiraling into paranoia as he questions whether his work has made him complicit in a crime. The brilliance of this film isn't just the suspense, it's the psychological unraveling of Harry Call, a man who spends his life spying on others, only to realize he's the one being watched. The opening scene in San Francisco's Union Square is a masterclass in slow burn tension. Harry Call and his surveillance team are hired by a mysterious client, known only as the Director, to spy on a young couple, Anne and Mark. The two walk in circles, speaking in vague, hushed tones, blending into the chaotic city noise. They seem frustrated, uneasy. Anne, clearly aware she might be watched, keeps looking over her shoulder. She's nervous. And Harry? He's detached. This is just another job. But then, back at his workshop, as he meticulously filters out the background noise, obsessively replaying the tape until he captures a chilling sentence. He'd kill us if he had the chance. A clear message, right? Or is it? This line gets under Harry's skin. He's been in the game long enough to know that what you hear isn't always what's real. But this time, something is different. He starts obsessing over the couple, over Anne. She has an innocent look. She speaks compassionately about a homeless man sleeping on a bench. It seems to be relatable to Harry. He's not homeless, but just like the homeless man, he's alone and lonely. And suddenly, Harry cares. The man who has spent his entire career listening to strangers without a second thought? Now he's invested. He convinces himself that the couple is in danger, that his work, his supposed professional detachment, might lead to tragedy. And it bugs the hell out of him. To escape his thoughts, Harry goes to see Amy, his sort of girlfriend. Or at least she wants to be. Amy is everything Harry isn't. Open, warm, craving connection. But Harry? He can't give her that. He won't even tell her where he lives. She pushes, asking him personal questions. Who is he? What does he actually do? And Harry? He shuts down. Amy finally makes her decision. Harry, I was so happy when you came over tonight. When I heard you open up the door, my toes were dancing under the covers, but I don't think I'm gonna wait for you anymore. Amy isn't cruel when she leaves. She's just done. She realizes she'll never truly know him. Harry can't stand being watched, yet he's built a life around watching others. He is a strict Catholic, confesses his sins in church, and desperately trying to absolve himself of guilt. He keeps telling himself that what clients do with his surveillance work isn't his responsibility. But deep down, he knows that's a lie. No amount of Hail Marys will erase the blood on his hands. The man who makes a living invading people's privacy guards his own like a fortress. 3 locks on the door, 0 personal items, no one gets in. Or so he thinks. And yet, his landlord strolls in like it's nothing. The irony is brutal. He spends his life ensuring others have no privacy, but even in his own home, he has none. And then there's the saxophone, his only real outlet. When he plays, he loses himself in the music. It's the one thing that feels real. A brief moment where he's just a man, not a surveillance expert drowning in paranoia. The next day, Harry tries to hand-deliver the surveillance tapes to the director, but instead, he's met by Martin Stett, a young, eerily cold Harrison Ford, the director's assistant. Harry refuses to give up the tapes. He doesn't trust Martin. His gut tells him something is wrong. And then comes the weirdest part of the movie. For a guy this paranoid, who lives in constant fear of being watched, who has 3 locks on his door, using payphones, renting a hidden workspace, avoiding personal connections, obsessing over wiretap security, yet he suddenly lets random acquaintances and their dates into his private workspace? Like, huh? Anyway, some said that it might be the momentary weakness and ego slip. Harry is a deeply lonely, isolated man. Maybe for once he let his guard down, craving human connection, even if it meant breaking his own rules. This fits thematically with his internal conflict, but still, it feels too careless for him. But then we learn the real reason why he's so paranoid. His guilt isn't just about this job, it's about what happened in New York. Harry's past is haunting him. A job he did years ago led to 3 people being murdered. He recorded them, spied on them, did exactly what he was paid to do. And they died because of it. That's why he left New York. That's why he started over in San Francisco. And that's why he's terrified that this new job will end the same way. This is the real reason he's fixated on Anne and Mark. It's not just professional, it's personal. If something happens to them, that's on him. And among the people he lets in, Meredith, the woman who seduces him, makes him vulnerable, and then steals his tapes. The master of surveillance gets played. Worse, he plays the incriminating recording while having sex, and the tape stops at the exact moment they finish. Symbolic? Oh, absolutely. Harry soon receives a call from Martin Stett. The director has the tapes. Bring the photos, collect your money. And suddenly, everything clicks. The director isn't just a powerful man, he's an old man. Anne, she's his wife. Mark, her lover. Harry's mind jumps to the worst-case scenario. The director is going to have Anne and Mark killed. He sees history repeating itself, New York all over again. This time, he decides to act. He books a hotel room next to the couple, desperate to intervene. But what he thinks he hears, a struggle, a murder, might not have even happened. He hides under the covers, turns the TV on, turns up the volume so he hears nothing. Too paralyzed to act, trapped in his own fear. If he doesn't see it, he's not responsible. And the next morning? A twist he never saw coming. It wasn't the young couple in danger, it was the director himself. The phrase, "he'd kill us if he had the chance," wasn't a plea of fear. It was a statement of intent. They weren't saying, "he's going to kill us." They were saying, "we need to kill him first." Harry heard what he expected to hear. He thought he was uncovering something dangerous, so that's what he made himself hear. And that's the real horror of the movie. Perception is shaped by expectation. The more Harry filters, amplifies, and replays the recording, the more he traps himself in his own fears, until he completely loses control. Anne was not a victim. She was a cold-blooded killer. And she played him. Funny how he cares so much for Anne, a woman he doesn't even know. More than Amy, the woman who actually cares about him. Harry, the man who built his career on decoding conversations, got it completely wrong, and that's when his paranoia hits overdrive. The final scene of the conversation is one of the most haunting endings in film history. Back in his apartment, Harry retreats into his only comfort, his saxophone. He plays, trying to drown out the reality that's closing in on him. And then, the phone rings. It's Martin. "Don't get involved, Mr. Call." And in the background, Harry hears himself playing the saxophone. And that's where this movie flips the script. He's not the one doing the watching anymore. He's the one being watched. Harry Call, the king of surveillance, realizes he's been bugged, and he loses it. He tears apart his entire apartment, ripping up the walls, the floorboards, the furniture, looking for the hidden microphone. He even breaks a statue of the Virgin Mary. A not-so-subtle metaphor. The devout Catholic, desperately clinging to morality, now destroying the last remnants of his faith. And the last shot? Harry sitting in his wrecked apartment playing his saxophone, alone. Just like his life. Did he find the bug? Nope. Did it even exist? Maybe. Maybe not. But that's the point. Harry's worst nightmare has come true. Not just being watched, but never knowing where the threat is coming from. Some say the bug was in the saxophone, and yet again, he fails to see it. Just like he failed to see the truth about Anne. Just like he failed to see Amy's love. Just like he failed to understand what was right in front of him. Some say the phone call never happened at all, that it was just his own paranoia breaking him down, that he's completely lost it. Either way, Harry Caul is officially trapped by his guilt, his fear, and his own mind. And the conversation ends exactly how it should, with no answers. Just pure existential dread. So, fun fact, since the conversation hit theaters right after the Watergate scandal broke, people immediately assumed, oh, this must be about Nixon and wiretapping. Nope. Coppola wrote and started producing this film before Watergate. The inspiration? His own privacy paranoia and a little gem from 1966, Blow Up, where a photographer accidentally captures a murder in a picture, but can't quite prove it. Coppola once said that, I wanted to make a film about privacy using the motif of eavesdropping and wiretapping, and centering on the personal and psychological life of the eavesdropper rather than his victims. It was to be a modern horror film, with a construction based on repetition rather than exposition, like a piece of music. And you know what's crazy? This movie feels more real now than it did in the 70s. Your phone is listening to you. AI can clone voices. Cameras are everywhere. Harry Caul's nightmare? Welcome to 2025. We all know Gene Hackman was the king of tough, take-no-BS characters. But here, he plays the exact opposite. Harry Caul is awkward, insecure, mumbling, a man drowning in his own guilt. And Hackman? He reportedly hated the role at first. Why? Because it forced him to strip down everything that made him a classic Hollywood lead. No bravado, no confidence, no swagger. But Coppola gave him space to craft the character from the inside out, and it shows. And to add another layer of authenticity, Hackman actually learned to play saxophone for the role. Because when Harry plays sax alone in his apartment, it's the only time he feels free. It's subtle, it's brilliant, and it's arguably Hackman's most human performance. All right, let's talk Harrison Ford. Dude was originally cast as a nobody, just some assistant with a couple of lines. But Ford, being the bold legend he is, shows up on set in a bright green suit that immediately caught Coppola's attention. And just like that, his role got expanded. His character, Martin Stett, went from forgettable lackey to cold, calculating corporate villain, and Ford ate that role up. Just 3 years later, boom, he's Han Solo. The rest is history. This movie wasn't just ahead of its time, it was prophetic. Wiretapping scandals? We've had plenty. Mass surveillance? That's just the internet now. Paranoia about being watched? Welcome to the club, Harry. Back in 1974, people left the theater thinking, wow, what a chilling story. Now, we watch it thinking, holy shit, this is real life. It's easy to look at Gene Hackman's career and see him as one of the greats. But the conversation was his most vulnerable, most intricate, most human role. He may have won Oscars for The French Connection and Unforgiven, but this was the film he held closest to his heart. And honestly, I get it. It's not his flashiest role. It's not his loudest performance. But it's his most personal. And that's why it remains one of the greatest performances in cinema history. Gene Hackman may be gone, but his performances will live forever. And if you really want to see him at his absolute best, not as a cop, not as a cowboy, but as a man unraveling under the weight of his own mind, The Conversation is the one to watch. This was his true masterpiece. Look, if you've never seen The Conversation, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's not a flashy thriller. There are no chase scenes, no big explosions, no dramatic shootouts. It's just one man, one tape, and one slow realization that everything he thought he knew was wrong. And by the time it's over, you'll be just as paranoid as Harry Caul. Gene Hackman knew what he was talking about. The Conversation isn't just his best movie, it's one of the greatest psychological thrillers ever made. So, are you watching? Or are you scared someone's watching you? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for more Real Talk.